to the channel. Now this amazing looking thing is a grass tree root. I can't tell you an awful lot about it apart from how expensive it was. I kind of got into a bidding war on eBay for this, and as bidding wars go, I won and I lost at the same time. So if you don't mind, can you please watch this video 2 or 3 times and then send it to your friends to watch as well? It would really help me out. Anyway, so we get a chance to turn something completely different. Now the shape itself certainly leans itself to being a vase or something like that. Whether or not we have a natural edge remains to be seen, but I'll certainly do my best to leave it that way if possible. The way we're going to turn this is we're going to have it between centres initially, turn a tenon on this end, then turn it around, hold it in the jaws, and then work on the outside, sand it, and then hollow it out and finish. Right, okay, I think we're nearly there. So I'll mark it up and we'll get started. Okay, now mark the centres on the top and the base, but as you can see when we turn that round, this kind of central trunk area is considerably out of line, so I'm just going to move this around to try and to give us as wide a stem as possible. That's more important than a huge bit on the top. It's getting worse. What am I doing wrong? Okay, that's about as balanced as I can get this centre. We can either do 2 things. We can either put it right in the middle of the bowl and have a maximum width there, but that'll leave us a very, very thin stem, or we can have a thick stem and a slightly narrower vase shape at the top, so, or flute as we would call it. So I think we've got the best mix of both there. So I'll go and sharpen up and we shall get started. Okay, we're all sharpened up, but before we get started, one thing I did learn from my research and tips from a couple of people is that the fibres from the grass tree can be dangerous, so I'm going to be wearing a P3 rated mask throughout turning, and then something a little bit more deliberate during sanding. Just so you know, we're going to be safe. So I'm going to start off with a ball gouge. Just try and clean up this outside, just get a feel for this wood, see how it's going to act, and then we'll create a tenon. Okay, initially, cutting doesn't seem to be a problem, which is nice. Very fibrous. I mean, we're not getting anything bigger than little particles coming off, but it looks like it's going to give us a reasonable clean surface underneath. Obviously it'll need a bit of sanding, but once we're down there that should be fine. Right, let's make a tenon. Okay, we can turn this around. I'll just quickly take off that little nub, and then we'll get it sorted out. Okay, we've got it turned round. I'm just going to turn the speed down the lathe because we're in a different orientation now and the balance is going to be different. So we'll just see where we're at. Okay, I think we can just get away with that. I'll start off by taking some of the excess off this side, but trying to keep the integrity of the natural rim. Work it down, get us a nice smooth finish, and then we can sand. That's coming nicely. Now I'm going to have to take off a reasonable amount of this purely because when I come to hollow this out, we're going to have this in balance because it's going to be quite a long way out from the chuck, and if it's not in balance then there's a great chance of it being thrown out. So you can see the angle from this bit here. This is where we've got to get down to. It'll still give us about an 8-inch flute, but in order to keep us safe and to keep this in one piece, it's got to go down that much. I wonder if I can try and get more of a steeper angle in here to go down, to try and keep this flute just a little bit wider at the top. So quick go at that. Okay, our shape's coming on nicely. It's just this little bit of area here that we've got to sort out. As soon as that is all being cut, then we can stop with this shaping, blend it in with the stem and start sanding. Just a little bit there, but I'm going to leave that. Once that's sanded, it'll give a nice little bit of contrast to the side of the wood. These kind of flaky areas you can see on the side, we're going to try and leave those as they are, and we'll build that into the edge design when we start that. Maybe just a little bit off the edge. Yeah, just a little bit there. Beautiful. Love it. Right, let's sort out the stem. Then we can start sanding, which I'm going to really enjoy. Do you know why? No end grain. Not at all. So I'll get ready for sanding. I'll let you watch a little bit of it, but then I shall bring you back when it's done. This really is quite remarkable stuff. It looks absolutely amazing. Right, we're sanded up to about 400. So what we're going to do now is a couple of coats of a blonde shellac, let that dry, and then I'm going to go on with an abrasive paste, which will take the finish up to about 1000. Okay, this is a blonde shellac which I've used a couple of times before. The reason why I'm using blonde is because there seems to be an awful lot of colour variation in this wood. I don't want to try and get it too dark. I want to be able to see exactly what's underneath, so this is the best way I think we can obtain that. Putting it on with a brush. Oh wow. I think that was the right decision. I said we're going to try 2 coats. If it needs more, I'll use more, but depending on how dry this wood is, how much it soaks it up. Okay, we'll let that dry. And then we'll apply a couple more coats if it's needed. Okay, we've got 3 coats of sealer on. So I'm going to go on with True Grit abrasive paste just to polish up this surface. These little dots you see, initially I thought they were holes, but they're not. So we don't have to worry too much about the grit filling up all these small areas. There is a grain, which I don't know if you can pick up on the camera, which I'll try and get a shot of a little bit later, running in between the dots, which is just absolutely incredible. I've never seen anything like it. So anyway, okay, I'll get this rubbed in. Now with an isopropyl alcohol, I'm just going to clean off all the residue. Okay, for a finish for this, I'm going to use a Hampshire sheen, which I think has given it a nice gloss, a nice shiny coat. It's going to be harder to buff in on these ends, so at the end, before we look at the finished article, I'm just going to give it a quick go over on the Lenisher just to buff up the wings, or the extremities rather. Okay, buff this in. That's gorgeous. Right, okay, let's hollow this thing out. Okay, it's time to start hollowing out. Don't worry about those white bits, they're just bits of the paper I was using to buff. Now, hollowing out, it's going to be tricky and we have to be very, very careful. Because we haven't got a steady rest to hold this in the centre somewhere, we can't put too much force sideways. So with the tailstock there, I'm going to try and get out as much as I can and then only take the tailstock away at the last moment. I'm not going to hollow this too deeply because I just daren't. I really just daren't. Right, let's see how we can get on. Okay, I'm just going to put a piece of tape on my tool rest where I don't want to try and go beyond. Then I'll start nibbling away at the edges. Is that about right? That should be about right. Okay, so far so good. A beautifully thin wall. That's scarily thin, actually. We'll be all right. Okay. Deeper. Deeper, still trying to keep this here. I'll make this thinner. Allow myself to get a bit deeper. I'll turn my tool rest in so I have more support as I am getting deeper. Whew. That made me jump. Not quite sure what happened there. Okay, carry on. I am so nervous right now. If you knew how much I paid for this, then you'd understand why I'm so nervous. Right, I'm going to take away the tailstock. Try and actually physically break this stem off with my fingers. And then hollow out this last little bit. Okay, I am going to go deeper, but I'm just going to take out a little bit of that with the forcing a bit, and then we can just work up the sides. It's going to make life an awful lot easier and a little less precarious. Okay, to get the sorry, put the mask on still. Right, to get the hollowing out done, I'm just going to start off with the small carbide cupped bit. This is a Hope hollowing tool, and then when that's got most of the work clear, then I'll either get a scraper in there or something just to finish off the edges, and then we'll sand. And I will breathe a big sigh of relief. Right, I'm going to start sanding. I'll let you watch the start, and I shall bring you back when it's all done. Okay, beautiful. Right, I'll just brought in a bit more light there just to watch this shellac go in. Well, I've only had one heart attack through this one, which I'm very glad about. Like before, we'll give it as many coats of shellac as it needs, or sealer, sorry. And then we'll put a final finish on it. That grain really is quite amazing. Maybe say hello to my wife. Okay, right, we'll let that soak in. I'll just quickly wipe off the bits off the edges there. We'll be back in a couple of seconds. Okay, we've had plenty of time to dry, so I'm just going to cut it back with abrasive paste again. I just did a little experiment on the outside. I didn't necessarily love the glossy finish on the outside, so I've just hit it with a bit of 1000 grit pad, and it's given it a matte finish, and the finish looks so much nicer than a high gloss finish. So we're going to do the same to this. Sometimes wood doesn't want to be shiny, and looking at the outside now, this wood definitely doesn't want to be shiny. It looks so much better with a matte finish, or a silks finish, should we say. Okay. Okay, we'll clean this off with isopropyl. I'll let this evaporate. I'm still going to go on with the Hampshire sheen, but then I am going to cut it back at the end to give it a matte finish. You may wonder why I'm putting it on to cut it back. Well, it will still help protect the wood and preserve it, but we're just not using the gloss feature of it. Okay, I'll pot this off, and then we shall take a look at what we've done. Well, there we have it. A natural edge grass tree root vase. I am so relieved that this one worked. As I mentioned at the start, I kind of I don't know if I did overpay, but it was certainly more than and generally comfortable spending on a single piece of wood, but I'm so glad I did. It is just absolutely mind-blowing. When you look really closely at the grain in this thing, it's just, you can just get lost in there. Absolutely gorgeous. I like the decision about turning it into a kind of a satin finish as opposed to a gloss. If you've got a different opinion, please let me know in the comments below. And if you do leave a comment, then you're going to be entered into the giveaway when we get eventually to 10,000 subscribers. Wow. Right, well, if you've enjoyed today's video, and I really, really sincerely hope you have, because I need this video to do quite well, please leave a like, subscribe, thumbs up, all that kind of usual thing. If you can share it, and if you can tell the entire world, I'd be very grateful. But apart from that, thank you very much indeed for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.